Pontiac received some pretty severe ribbing about their previous Grand Prix because they had this rib paneling that ran along the bottom of the car. So it's no surprise in 2004 that the new Grand Prix is ribless.
That's right, Zach. The side paneling is all gone. And as a result, the styling is much cleaner, but it's still very aggressive, especially right here at the front end. And that's really no surprise considering Pontiac is the performance-oriented division of GM.
The front seats are fairly wide and comfortable, and they have support along the side. The problem is the roof line is raked really close to your head, so there isn't much headroom for tall drivers, unless you like to lie down when you drive. The instrument panel is fairly well laid out. It's straightforward and plainly marked and right in front of the driver. The cruise and audio buttons can also be found on the steering wheel. I also like how the power window buttons are angled towards the driver. And check it out in the front. There are 9 air vents in the front. You certainly get your money's worth.
The restyled instrument panel now has metallic trim around the new gauges and on the steering wheel, which contrasts nicely with the darker plastic dash. Still, the quality of some of the dash plastics, well, they could be better.
The front of the Grand Prix has a couple of gimmicky features. Every time you turn the key on, in the information display it says Wide Track GP, and the needles on the gauges sweep from right to left, just like the Corvette.
But there are also a couple of really useful features offered by the Grand Prix, like the split folding 60/40 rear seats. And for those really extra long loads, you can also fold down flat the front passenger seat.
Seat of the pants performance has always been one of the Grand Prix strong points. The base GT1 and GT2 models have 200 horsepower from a 3.8-liter pushrod V6, but the top-of-the-line GTP model has a supercharged 3.8-liter V6 with 260 horsepower. That's up 20 horsepower from the 240 in the previous model. The Grand Prix takes off from the line easily, and it has lots of power all the way through the rev range. What's interesting, though, is it doesn't have a lot of what's called torque steer. That's when the power is going through the front wheels and the steering wheel gets tugged out of your hand. It just doesn't happen with the GTP. The GTP's belt-driven supercharger creates more horsepower by forcing more air into the cylinders, but that also increases fuel consumption. If you're looking at purchasing a Grand Prix, the base model offers quite a bit of power as standard equipment, and the supercharged version costs a lot more, so you have to weigh if it's worth the extra money.
The GTP is really quiet at highway speeds, though, with the engine typically revving at just under 2,000 RPM. The 4-speed automatic transmission slides easily between gears, and the GTP handles well. An independent suspension, a fairly wide track, and 17-inch tires give it good stability, while a long wheelbase contributes to a comfortable ride. This is an easy car to drive. The steering is really light and there's a lot of window glass, so the visibility is quite good. Plus, it also maneuvers well in traffic. If you want even more performance, GTPs are offered with a special competition package with bigger tires, stiffer suspension, and an automatic transmission with shift paddles on the steering wheel for shifting manually.
The Pontiac Grand Prix is bigger than its competitors. Also, it's priced relatively well. It's definitely more aggressive looking than its American counterparts, the Buick Regal and the Ford Taurus.
That's right. I think that even with the supercharged engine, it's still a comfortable, easy-to-drive car. And I think men are going to like this a lot more than the women are. So let's put that theory to the test, Zach.
Well, it tickles the male part of the brain for sure. It's got plenty of power under your right foot. In addition, it has a quiet interior, and the handling is superb with that wide track. Speaking of the interior, that's what I don't like about it. It's got a very monochrome plastic look on the inside. It doesn't look upgrade, and it definitely only has a little bit of cloth here and there in the doors. In addition, if you're a tall driver, that roof is raked right past your head, so if you're over 6 feet tall, you're going to have to drive lying down. In addition, the styling on the outside, even though it's better than the previous model, it's still overstyled for my taste. So a 3 out of 5 for the Pontiac GTP for me. Dagmar?
I definitely agree with that horsepower under the hood. There's 20 extra there from the previous supercharged engine. It's now up to 260, and that'll get you out of any tight situation you happen to be in. Also really like this sound system that our model came with. It's a Monsoon. What I don't like, pretty much the same thing that Zach does. And his headroom issue in the front, my legroom issue in the back. If you happen to have longer legs, you will have difficulty fitting in back there. Also, if you are shorter, those narrow slanted windows will make you feel like a fish staring out of a fishbowl. Children will not enjoy the ride in the back seat of this car. Not too impressed with the GTP overall. I give it a 3 out of 5.
Out of a possible 10 score on driving television, the Grand Prix GTP gets 6.